Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and today's Wide Angle with Ashok Vyas is slightly different with different dimensions. When I say different dimensions, we talk about divinity, we talk about digital age, we talk about faith or devotion, politics, protests, and all that takes us to a place which is in the headlines these days, but not because of the intensity of devotion or special way of worshipping, but because of the reasons which probably have little to do with devotion and more to do with something else. And what is that something else? That has resulted into groups like Save Sabarimala USA, Ready to Wait USA emerging here, and I have the pleasure of welcoming someone who mentions about Sabarimala as it was a part of her childhood memories, being very close to that place physically, now based here in New York, serving as assistant professor of cardiology at Hofstra School of Medicine. Dr. Nisha Pillai ji joins me at the studio. Nisha ji, swagat hai aapka. So before we talk about the controversy, let's talk about the purity part and the devotional part of it. And India being such a diverse nation and Hinduism having so many branches, many Hindus are also not very much familiar with what is the composition, the ambience, the mood, and the way worshippers go towards Lord Ayappa at Sabarimala. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sabarimala, is a little different from the rest of the temples, either across the board in India or even in South India itself. Because here, the deity itself, the story of the deity is closely related to Kerala. Because Manikanta, who later on became the deity at Sabarimala, was deemed to be a prince of Pandalam Palace. So, he basically grew up in Kerala. And he had friends from other religions very closely associated with him. By 12 years, when he felt like his purpose his life purpose was achieved, he chose to go as a renunciate to this Sabarimala. He chose the place. He assumed the stature of a yogi there. And since then, he's been meditating there, and he's believed to have merged into an idol of Dharma Shastra. So, Manikanda as such belongs to Kerala, the person itself. And then he's in a renunciate form in Sabarimala. So, the whole purpose or the whole concept of Sabarimala is towards renunciation, and that is really what keeps Sabarimala very different from other places. And it's vital to know that there are other Ayyappa temples in Kerala which have Ayyappa in other form, not Ayyappa, Dharma Shastra in other forms. Dharma Shastra as a kid, Dharma Shastra as a youth, married with wives, and in different forms. So when we say Ayyappa, we need to understand that Ayyappa could be in different forms in different temples. So everybody keeps asking why, if women can go into other Dharma Shastra temples or other Ayyappa temples, what is different about Sabarimala? So what is different about Sabarimala is the way that temple is consecrated or the way that deity is consecrated. So he is there as a renunciate, as a yogi, and as a Naishtika Brahmachari. A Naishtika Brahmachari is a pure celibate. So and what are the ways a Naishtik Brahmachari would live his life has been very explicitly explained in the Hindu tradition. So as such, it's believed that Ayyappa himself told the king of Pandalam, who is his father, when he was moving to Sabarimala, that this is how I want to be, and this is what a person should do before he comes to see me. So there is a 41-day ritual that one has to follow to enter Sabarimala. And since he said that he will be a Naishtik Brahmachari, assuming this is the way that the Naishtik Brahmachari would live, women of the reproductive age group are kept away from that temple. So it's got nothing to do. So people are, now looking at it saying, oh, menstruating women are not going. It's not about menstruating women. It's about renunciation being the purpose of that temple visit. And if we send every mother or every woman in the reproductive age group to be a renunciate, that's not going to be good for the family environment. So that's probably the purpose why women completely have been kept away because the
So certain age group, 10 to...
it's 10 to 50. So it's really like, when you have a family life and everything, because that's not the time when you want to become a renunciate, right? This is more towards vanaprastha. So before 10, it's fine because you're just going as a kid. But it's really the women who are towards vanaprastha who are then allowed to go there. So it's the way the temple is consecrated.
So share with us, Nishaji, your memory as a child. I believe you have been to
I
this
have
temple.
been there, and I went maybe around age of 5. Of course, on the shoulder of my father, and that's how a lot of our girls go, because this is not an easy ride to the temple, because it's like a long journey through the very dense forest. Now things have gotten better, but as years go by, but it's definitely a tough trek. And people always ask like, oh, because women were kept away in those days because it was a difficult journey, and nowadays we have transportation, so why don't? So that's not even the reason. If tough trek was the reason why people were kept away, then we would have kept our little girls and old mothers away, right? So that was not the reason. We actually allowed them to go. So it's not the difficulty of the journey or the difficulty of the pilgrimage that was the reason to keep them away. It's really the nature of the deity that's the reason.
Let's talk a little bit about the way in Hindu tradition devotees relate to their Ishta or the form of Lord, whether it is Durga Ma or Lord Krishna or Ayappa ji in the reference that we have. So this aspect of bonding makes it very special way of relating to a place also. In that context, the way Supreme Court starts dictating how practitioners should worship, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because court has certain structure which is directed from the constitution, and this becomes, and not to say that you undermine the constitution, but this is some subtle difference there.
Yeah, see, there is something called sensitivity when it comes to religion. That is not something that you can go by constitutional analysis, right? The Supreme Court only can analyze the Constitution. So if somebody goes in front of the Supreme Court and asks, wherever a man can go, can a woman go? Of course, gender equality, they're going to say you can go. There is nothing that, but that is not the issue at all here. A woman would not go into a man's bathroom, right? So that's a sensibility issue. That's
Absolutely.
a sensitivity issue. So exactly like that, there are certain places, there are certain things that we don't do. And same with religion. There is a reason why a temple is consecrated a certain way. And like you said, Hinduism is very diverse, and at the same time, the Hindu spirituality is very different from the rest of the Western concepts of spirituality, because we don't go to a temple to pray. We actually go to a temple to raise our own energy levels, to raise ourselves to divinity. So because we assume that every man is potentially God, and every man has the power to become, to rise to the level of God. And that's exactly the concept of Sabarimala, because if you do this tough trek and do everything and do the 41-day penance and go there, you see Tattvamasi. That is what is written on top of the temple. So when you go there, you yourself become God, and the purpose of a Sabarimala pilgrimage is to raise yourself to that level of divinity. So that being said, you're asking like, okay, now can the court dictate these things? The court obviously cannot dictate this. Yeah, court can say, okay, constitutionally you are all equal, agreed, but that cannot be transposed that way into a place of worship or into a place of
And Nisha, so you yourself are a woman, and now you are also in that age group where you cannot enter, but have you ever felt that you are prevented from connecting to the deity, or from exercising a right that you have, and only men can go there and you can
see
go?
Here, it's not my right or your right or a man's right or a woman's right, it's the deity's right. Because for a Hindu, a temple is an abode of God, and we believe the deity itself has life, right? We consecrate a deity and we give that deity a prana. Once the prana pradishta is done, the deity is considered a living entity with his own will, and so as far as Sabarimala is concerned, Ayappa himself said, okay, this is the way I am. So if I am a person that I don't drink and I don't like alcoholics. I have every right to say an alcoholic should not come into my house, right? Exactly here. So Ayyappa is saying, I'm an Aishtik brahmachari and I want to live my life a certain way, and this is what you have to do if you want to come and visit me. He has every right to say who should come to visit him, or under what conditions can a person come to visit him. And if he cannot do those things, you should not go there. It's simple as that. And it's not like now noticing a real devotee will never want to do anything against the wishes of the deity, right? That is where devotion comes. It's like you are totally surrendered to the deity.
That is Nisha, the question comes whether you are going to the temple driven by devotion or driven by ego or driven by the desire to make a point that socially or politically or constitutionally you want to exercise your right. So that itself puts it in a different track. It is not related to devotion. And let me also bring to your attention especially two ladies who, again, there was a case filed in Supreme Court, judgment gave them the right to enter. But these were not Hindu practitioners even. The name would tell you that one was Muslim, one was Christian. So what do you think is happening there?
No, like I said, a true devotee will not try to challenge a temple or the tradition, right? That is not devotion. Now, these people who are trying to exercise their gender equality and things like that are just trying to prove a point, and most of them are like women activists or, you know, people who think they have to come there and prove their gender equality. Like, you know, living in this country for the last 20-25 years, do you think I'll be someone who would stand up for anything that would pull women back? So this is not a matter of gender equality. Or see, I work in an area where it's like 100, almost like, you know, 99% men. Women are very few in cardiology, even in US. So we have come a long way in that sense. And, you know, I never felt that, you know, this was anything to do with gender equality or. And like I said, this is not true devotion. Like I say, see, this whole ready to wait movement, whether it's in US or in India, are actually propagated by women devotees. And you should see.
So allow me to interrupt you. And many of our viewers are not aware about what this ready to wait movement is. It hasn't caught that much eyeballs on television channels, and newspapers have not written that much about it so far. So there is a movement called Ready to Wait, and there is Ready to Wait USA branch, if I call it, of this movement. What is the basic aim and why it is?
Right. Ready to Wait is a movement that is put together by women who are ready to wait to enter that temple. They are ready to wait till age 50 to go there. We are under no rush to go there. So we are all part of that movement. So it's like, you know, men have to do the 41-day penance. Women probably have to do a 41-year penance or a 41-year wait, right? From age 9 to 50 is like a 41-year wait. But we are willing to wait and we don't want to rush it. That is the point. So that is the whole ready to wait movement, and it's very active in India. And you should see the people protesting on the roads of India or Kerala. It's like 99% women. If this was all about gender equality or women's rights, do you think these women will be on the street? We don't want to go. We are saying we don't want to go. And so the people who are trying to prove a point there are not devotees of Ayyappa, are not people who have anything to do with temples, unfortunately. So if this is not a matter of devotion, and if the government says that we have to, you know, if a woman comes forward saying, okay, I really want, and I would repeatedly say that if a woman is a true renunciate at a certain age and she wants to go there, we cannot stop her. But here the thing is, like, there is no way to say that, right? I mean, how can you handpick one and say, okay, she's a true renunciate and she wants. So in a temple that about 80 million people come per year, last year it was 80 million people, and probably the biggest pilgrimage in Asia, what kind of a barrier can you set? So they just set it like between 10 and 50, something like that, you know, 50, assuming 50 is the age when you go into Vanaprastha. So that's basically what it is. And Ready to Wait is a woman directed movement. You know, saying that we are ready to wait, we don't want to go now.
Okay, so you are also having some protest rally here in New York?
Yes, this has been across the board in every country that Hindus are, every country that Ayyappa devotees are. Kerala, it's been like every single nook and corner of Kerala has protested, and obviously to declare our allegiance across the board in USA, there has been protest rallies in several cities, and we are doing a big one in New York City this weekend. On the 10th, it's New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the entire tri-state area. Devotees will be assembling in the city. It's a peace rally just to show our allegiance to the temple and our traditions. And we will be voicing our concerns to the related authorities, and we will definitely raise our slogans and let the world know that we are ready to wait, and we don't want we want to keep our traditions alive. We want, and like I said, there is a reason to keep it the way it is. It is not like, it's not about gender equality. Women are not children of lesser God. We all know that. So it's it's out of our respect and devotion to Ayyappa that we want to stay away from him.
Let's go back to India. The way this has become a controversy, this is the most pristine or pure and one of its kind abode of divine presence, where devotees intensely feel a sense of elevating their level of consciousness, because even before going they are observing certain penance for 41 days. So what we are talking about here is emerging into a sense of tranquility or peace. But the way this reference is coming up, there is more controversy and there will be more potential reasons of anxiety or tension for people who are protesting, because it is a different level when you are working on the street, whether you are working to protest to save Sabarimala or you are claiming your right. So if you are claiming your right, then you are actually not interested in the kind of spiritual peace that we are referring and we associate with the temple. So how do you see the potential outcome of this sort of a tug of war, or what would you say?
When 80 million people went there last year without any problem, before this whole controversy happened, there was no issues. Everybody went, everybody came home happily. But just to send 2 women activists there, 5,000 policemen are deployed there. Can you imagine, like, the government is taking that level of an initiative to send 2 women over there and to disrupt this whole place, shutting off the water, not allowing people to stay there more than a day. It's like become, it's like,
war zone.
It's a war zone, and then tension every moment, like, will somebody who's not supposed to come there come there? So what kind of pilgrimage are we talking about? It's taking away the entire sanctity of the place by trying to force something. And like I said, okay, Supreme Court has before this also in India made several judgments. But that does not mean that we rush and make this happen. Why can't we just give it some time to have the responsible people sit together and talk about it and see if is there a way we can do this a little better than making it like a fight between the devotees and the government
so
of
thing?
Let
me share my impression as I read and I hear from Indian television media also. There is some way whereby either call them voice for minority, the way it is emerging, or and they feel that anything to do with the traditional Hindu pattern of living, when it is questioned, it is considered as a way of becoming progressive. That is a general notion and impression I gather. And probably that also pulls many intellectuals or people who have their voice heard on the media, etc. But they know how to collectively raise their voice and make the kind of noise which would draw attention of the Supreme Court as well as political parties. So this is my general analysis. What is your take on this?
You know, Indian culture and the Hindu culture, fortunately, has a life. It's longest surviving civilization of mankind. So it's 10,000 years old. So anything to do with it is definitely ancient, right? So being modern, when all these invasions came to India, and they came up with the newer identities and ideologies. People and especially when the English crowd came, the English-speaking crowd was considered to be the elite, and a lot of our Indians unfortunately thought to be elite or to be Western was to discard anything that was Indian. So that in the medieval times we kind of swayed away from everything that was Indian and everything that was traditional and everything that was Hindu, because we thought that was being progressive. But look at America now. I always say this, 10 years ago, if you walked into an American hospital or a tertiary care center in America, you would have state-of-the-art coronary care units. Now, if you walk into a tertiary care hospital in America, you'll have state-of-the-art meditation centers. So what we thought was ancient and what we are discarding in an attempt to become progressive, the West is taking over. Yoga is big in this country. Meditation is big in this country. The kids in Norway and England, and they are studying Gayatri Mantra, they are studying Sanskrit. Sanskrit is going to be the language of artificial intelligence and supercomputers. So that is not progressive. Who said that is progressive? And if we don't assume ownership for what is ours, the West will, and then we will know we lost it, because they will patent everything that we don't want. It's surprising that our Indian media tries to say Sanskrit is a dead language when the West is wholeheartedly taking it over. It's surprising that we send our patients for yoga and meditation more than the Indian doctors would do. So this is not, like I said, if they think everything Western is progressive, they'll have to take it from the West, that this is progressive.
I think you made a very good point. And now let's look at the way Hindu tradition, as I mentioned earlier, has so much variety. And Vivekananda said that to reach infinite, there could be infinite ways. Now that kind of openness is mind-boggling for other, call them religion or faith, but it is an integral part of what we call Sanatan or Hindu tradition. In this context, many Hindus living in India are also not aware about the sanctity, the significance of Sabarimala. So when you are organizing a protest here, how would you connect with other Hindus? Because when there are more people with voice and the frequency match, then probably the chances of attaining the desired goal are more.
Sabarimala movement has actually become global. It is not confined to India, or it's not confined to other countries at this point, because everybody seems to be very active. And like I said, Sabarimala is like the back of the hand for every Malayali. It's like so emotionally, we are all emotionally vested in it. So, of course, it's media that has to promote the activities that's going on. But nowadays, social media and everything, people are communicating with each other so well. Everything is known to everybody, and it's like a global renaissance movement.
So let's talk about what is happening at this protest rally. You have some leaders making some speeches, and in the last minute or so, if somebody wants to come, what is it that
we
they
in
should
fact
know?
invite everybody to come. There is, we want everyone who is pro Sabarimala, who is pro. Actually, we want everyone who wants to protect faith to come to, because this is not something the government or the Supreme Court can dictate. This is a matter of faith, and there is no way to challenge it.
So it is happening at 5th Avenue and 64th Street.
It's 5th and 64th Street on the 10 a.m. On the 10th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we are in fact wholeheartedly inviting all Ayyappa devotees across tri-state area to join us and make this a big event. And in fact, we want our voice to be heard. We want to let the world know that sitting in New York City, we are declaring our allegiance to this movement.
And when you hear about Sabarimala, when we meditate on Ayyappa, and you imagine the group of devotees marching or moving towards the temple, what is the famous chant that they normally have? Sharanye Ayyappa?
Swami Sharanam Ayyappa.
Swami Sharanam Ayyappa.
Sharanam Ayyappa means we surrender to you.
Yeah. So Swami Sharanam Ayyappa, we have heard that here in New York also at the Hindu temple, in Flushing and in New Jersey also, there are many people who go, or devotees I must say, go from here to Sabarimala, and I personally know many of them, and the kind of energy that they feel after visiting and having done their 41 days of ritual.
See, 41 days is the time that 3 weeks is the time that we need to change a behavior pattern that we have. So 41 days is like 2-3 weeks time, right? So it's like reinforcing a change in your behavior. So they are asked, during that period, you are asked to live a certain life. You are asked not to be angry. You are told to consider everyone as Ayyappa. So it's like, you are spiritually elevating yourself. And 3 weeks time, we are assuming that your behavior will change to a point that you are spiritually higher, and then whatever you carry in that irumudi, that itself is to represent your life. So you come with a certain baggage, and then whatever you acquire here, so you carry that on your head. You walk this tough terrain, which is equivalent to your life. Then you go through the 18 steps, which is actually representative of the Panchabhutas, the Ashtaragas, Trigunas, and Vidya. So if you climb up climb over all those things, in the sense like you overcome all those things, you just, when you reach the top, you'll see Tattvamasi. In the sense like when you reach there, you'll see your divinity, your God is within yourself. There cannot be a pilgrimage that is more elegant than this, right? And to just take away the sanctity of that just because some woman wants to go there, it's so sad.
Absolutely, and what is encouraging is that people are collectively raising their voice, and I thank Dr. Nisha Pillai, Assistant Professor of Cardiology at Hofstra School of Medicine, and also an important voice for the Save Sabarimala USA, as well as for Ready to Wait USA. Hope good sense will prevail, and we'll reach to a harmonious resolve to this whole problem. But at the moment, it is important to join them on November 10th, Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., 5th Avenue, 64th Street, Manhattan. Once again, lots of good wishes. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to all of you for being with us. This is Ashok Vyas.